In all my years in aviation and all the airlines I've worked for and all the flying I've done, I've never flown Oman Air.
Whoa.
I didn't get a passport till I was 30 and I've been in this industry for all this time.
There were rumors that the airline might just shut down.
The company culture needed work because I think that the company had been beaten down in a way over the years. And so far, we're almost half the way through and we're succeeding, and it's because of what we all do collectively as a family unit, every single one of our 3,000 over staff, that we're getting it there and we can get it there. And we'll take it to greater heights than it's ever been before.
Who doesn't want to crack the code for those airline seat upgrades? Or ever wondered, does aviation really make money? And if not, how do airlines even survive? Well, this episode is your boarding pass to all those airline secrets and hacks. My guest today has lived and breathed aviation for over 30 years. Yes, he's worked with one of the best in the world, Singapore Airlines, Qantas, and now is the CEO of our very own national carrier, Oman Air. Hello and welcome to another episode of Unscripted. My name is Garima, and in the studio with me is Mr. Korfiatis.
Hi Garima, nice to be with you today.
Oh, I'm absolutely excited for the conversation, by the way.
Yeah, I'm looking forward with some trepidation as well.
By the way, quite a name right there, Korfiatis.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a story around that.
Yeah, well, look, let me start by saying it's Con by name and not nature.
Okay.
Because that's really important given the subject matter we're talking about today. But Con is an abbreviation of a long Greek name called Konstantinos,
Okay.
which is my proper name, actually. That's what Mum and Dad called me. But I
I'm
was
glad
born
that
and
you go
raised
by
in
Con,
Australia
right?
to immigrants, and that was a really long name for people to pronounce, so it became
Right.
Con as an abbreviation.
I'm glad that you actually kept that name. But haven't you got any reactions at the airport or, like I said, at the airport or anywhere else? The minute they read your name, they look at your face, they read your name, they look at your face, they're like, on the passport, it's Con or is the full name?
Well, that's another story in itself. You know,
Feel free,
in
we
Australia,
have all the time in the world.
Well, in Australia we have no identity cards, right? So when I was turning 17, I wanted to go and get a learner's permit to learn how to drive.
Okay.
I asked Mum and Dad. I said, "What do I have as an ID that I can take to prove my age to get a learner's permit?" And they couldn't find actually my birth certificate, which is all we had. So
Okay.
they gave me what's called the certificate of baptism from when I was, I guess, a baby, 1 year old.
Okay.
And it was half in Greek and half in English.
Okay.
So when I went to the driver's, the learning department or the licensing department, and I said, I'd like to get my driver's license, and they said, what ID do you have? And they said, you got a passport. Here's a funny story.
Yeah.
I didn't get a passport till I was 30, and I've been in this industry for all this time. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Ooh, I'm going to come back to that.
We can come back to that.
Yeah.
So I said, look, I can't find my birth certificate, and so this is all I could find. And they said, well, that'll do. And on the Greek side, in Greek writing, it said Konstantinos Korfiatis, and on the English side, they couldn't work it out, so they abbreviated it to Korfiatis, and they took that and they put it on my driver's license. So when I got a passport much later in life, they said, what have you got? And I said, I got a driver's license, and they took Con off of that. So I'm Con by name, passport, driver's license, the English version of my certificate of baptism, and then many years later I found my birth certificate, which says Konstantinos, by the way.
Hey, you played Con.
Yeah, we did.
Wow,
Yeah, we did.
that's
yeah, we
interesting
did.
to know.
But I'd been Con for too long, and it was too late to change back. Everybody knew me as Con.
Well, I actually read the name and I was going through the profile. I was like, hey, I can actually relate to this name. Ask me why.
Why?
Because my name actually in Arabic is read as Jarima. And Jarima translates to a crime. So when I also go to the airport, the officials look at the passport, they look at my face, they look at the passport, like, do you even know the meaning of your name? I'm like, in Arabic it's different. But otherwise, my parents never actually planned to keep my name as a crime. But anyways.
It's good at least they're not saying, yeah, I can see that. Because that would be worse, right?
Right. Well, Khan, so you joined Oman Air last year.
Yeah.
In the month of May.
Right.
How was the last year? Turbulent? Smooth?
Turbulent, but that goes well with the industry, right?
Yeah, true that.
No, look, I mean, Oman Air is a beautiful airline and in a beautiful country, by the way.
Right.
And I had no idea, as a veteran of the industry, who's been around for a long time, and I lived nearly the last 8 years in Saudi Arabia, just next door.
Right.
And in all that time, I never came to Oman. And in all my years in aviation and all the airlines I've worked for and all the flying I've done, I've never flown Oman Air.
Whoa.
So when this opportunity came along, I thought to myself, how did I miss Oman next door all these years, living so close?
Right.
And this is actually a really nice airline.
Yeah.
So it was exciting from that point of view, and I met wonderful people through my interviewing process to come here, and
Right.
it really sold me on the location as well as the airline and what it represents from a customer point of view. But that wasn't the reason they brought me here. The reason they brought me here is from a business point of view. It's
Right.
broken. It's
Right.
and we're on a path now, but it's still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And the business side of it has just been neglected probably for its whole existence from what I can see.
Right.
And so I come back to, you asked me, how's it been? And I said turbulent.
Yeah.
It's turbulent because it's a transformation story.
Right.
And the latter part of my career, and I've been doing this for a long time, has been either startups or transformations. So I'm a bit of a masochist and like punishing myself and taking on big challenges. But I love that. And I love the complexity of this industry and an opportunity to fix something that has is already very, very good, but can be just so much better. I think I couldn't resist that temptation. So here I am, and here we are, and it's 15, 16 months on now.
Right.
Feels like 15 or 16 years.
Right.
But I don't say that as a negative. I say that more in the context of just how much we've done in that time frame.
Right.
And it's really been a lot.
Right,
So,
right, absolutely.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's certainly keeping me really busy. I still haven't done all the tourism things I need to do here, and that's well overdue. But it's just been really busy. But so far so good.
Wow. Well, I'm going to take slow, and I already have like 6 questions out of the answer that you just gave me.
Okay, that's
I'll start
fine.
from the beginning there. You actually said in the conversation that it was broken. And of course, we also heard the news, read the news. And if I had to quote the figure, there was this figure that just stayed in my head. I didn't even do the research right now, but it was like, it just stayed when it read like 2 billion riyals as a loss since 2011. There were rumors that the airline might just shut down. There were rumors there's a lot of restructuring happening, all of that. That was pretty much the same time when you actually joined Oman Air, which was last year, right? Because there was a lot of news that was going around that. Question.
Yeah.
When the management approached you, I'm pretty sure that even you were aware that this is what the airline is going through. How did you convince yourself, your family, and everything? Take me through the process. How were you approached, and you finally took the decision, okay, fine, this is what I'm doing?
Well, I come back to what I said just a couple of minutes ago, and I'm personally motivated by challenge.
Right.
And I enjoy that a lot more. I love ambiguity. I love change. Boredom is my enemy. And I think, so a lot of it goes to my personality, but also I had to do my own due diligence around whether I thought this was actually salvageable. Because if it wasn't, I didn't want to come here and waste anybody's time, nor waste my own time if we're not going to achieve something and actually get somewhere. I didn't come knocking at the door.
Right.
I think the board and the shareholder had decided that after so many years of such significant losses, it needed a fix. And that side of it needed a fix. We had a good airline, we had a beautiful country and a tremendous asset
Right.
from a tourism point of view, but
Right.
the airline was a huge drain on public money and just too much, and enough was enough, and it just needed a real dramatic and serious overhaul.
Right.
So I guess some of the things you touched on before around all the things that might have been going on in the background and happening, I guess, and it preceded me, these all would have been natural things one would be thinking about in these circumstances. But I think the decision is we do have some asset there. We have an airline that's won awards for many years for its quality from the customer point of view. And it certainly, the country needs a strong and viable national airline to really champion, if you like, the tourism agenda from the airline point of view. And I don't see the airline as a pillar of the economic program that's going on now, but tourism is. And without a strong national airline, we're a very strong enabler for the tourism pillar. And so if we aren't healthy and we can't help in the best way that we can, then the tourism agenda will be compromised to some extent. You can't rely just on the foreign carriers to fill that void. That doesn't happen anywhere in the world. Every successful place from a tourism point of view has a strong national airline. So it needed to be fixed.
Right.
And that's really, the mandate is to don't lose, a good quality customer offering. In fact, invest in it and let's enhance that. And there are things we need to do because albeit we have a good product, a lot of it is dated now, and it's time to start revisiting it. But even more importantly, be able to justify a continued investment in growth and rejuvenation of older aircraft in the airline on the basis of it's financially responsible and viable.
Right.
And so, that's the journey that we're on.
Right.
We're not the only airlines who have done this in our history. In fact, we're probably late to the party. Most state-owned airlines have had to go through a process like this and have got themselves into a situation as we have from the business point of view because of all the legacy issues and how airlines used to be thought of long ago, but is no longer the case today. And so it's our turn to go through that transformation. So we're charting a path that's been done before. It's not exactly the same in every place. It does vary because there are local nuances, and there's not a playbook where you just roll it out and follow a script and don't change anything.
Right.
But there are some fundamentals, and there are things we have to learn in a local context on how to actually make the change and put it in play and do it in the right way so that it's palatable, both politically and economically and socially responsible as it can be, because we're making difficult decisions here, and some of the decisions are not desirable decisions, but ones that we just have to make if we're going to have long-term viability.
Right. So when you joined last year, what were the 3 things that you wanted to change immediately?
Well, I think the excesses that we had in the organisation. We had built this up over many, many years, whether it be in staff numbers, whether it be in paying too much in our contracts, whether it be in doing things we shouldn't be doing, whether it be in automation terms, we haven't introduced enough automation in places, which helps our efficiency a lot. So there was a lot on that front that they need to be doing. I think the company culture needed work, because I think the company had been, beaten down in a way over the years because it hasn't been performing so well for such a long and sustained period.
Correct.
Whereas in most countries where that I'm aware of, the national airline is the pride and joy of everyone in the country.
Right.
And graduates coming out of university system are saying, the airline is in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the most.
Right.
Companies that would be most admired and where everyone would want to go and work. And we were at the other end of the spectrum because of the history.
Right.
And that cannot but have an impact on our people.
Right.
And our people were down and were beaten up and were low on energy and were low on passion and drive. And most importantly for me, and you come to the third thing, which I'm coming to now, which is also people-related, belief.
Okay.
So after so long, you need to be able to believe, can we get it right?
Yeah.
How is it that we haven't got it right? I mean, we haven't been able to get it right for so long. So someone's coming along and saying, we've got to do all these things, and this will change, and this is going to get us there, along with behavioural and other things that we need to do, things we need to invest in, and so on and so on.
Right.
And it takes a belief in that, because at the end of the day, and I say this to our people, what do airlines have? I mean, we all fly the same aircraft. There's only effectively a couple of manufacturers in the world we all buy from. We buy seats, we put entertainment on it, we feed people, and we take them from point A to point B.
Correct.
So what is what defines the successful from the unsuccessful, the good from the bad?
Right.
And it's really the people and what they do with those assets. It's the people factor that really drives something and above and beyond, or it's the people that actually cause it to fail ultimately.
Right.
So that people piece, and our people is our biggest asset, more than aircraft and offices and maintenance centres and trainings and simulators, which are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, it's really our people. And
Right.
so that belief is important. And
Right.
that's as much a part of the what success looks like
Right.
as any other part of what we're doing.
Right. It's just like how they say, how you make the other person feel. How was the experience?
Right.
Like, let them remember you by the experience that they actually had.
Right.
Right.
Our customer and our customer experience, by the way, is not just the people who are buying our airfares. Of course, they are the most important, because if they're not buying airfares, then there's no airline and there's none of us in the airline itself. But our internal customers and our suppliers and other stakeholders are also customers in a different way, right?
Right,
And
right.
we have to appeal to all of them at the end of the day.
Right. Okay, if you had to explain, can you just explain it to me? Because I've never had this opportunity to ask this question to anyone, and I think you would just be the right person to ask this. What are the different streams through which an airline industry makes it revenue from? Or I'm sure it's not just the ticket sales, like how you just rightly said. There's much more. Like, I also remember one of my friends telling me that every time an airline parks its aircraft in another country, I think you got to pay a rent or you got to pay some parking fee as well for that.
Parking, landing fees.
Yeah, that's true.
Charges to turn the aircraft around and prepare it to take off again, to turn around again, to take off again.
What?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you take me through all of this like really slowly? That
Yeah.
what technically are the costs for you? Where is that you make the money from? And how are these profits really calculated?
So we don't have too much in the way of profits to talk about yet, but I can talk to you about the industry.
I think it's the
but we hope
industry
to
itself
get
that they
there.
have very thin profit margins.
It's similar things, right? So, and it's a case of, I mean, what distinguishes between profit and loss? It means those revenue efforts are giving you more money than what you're having to spend to deliver the network
Right,
that you fly, right?
right.
And if you get that equation wrong, that's where you make losses. But if you get that equation right, is where you make money. And so you need a comprehensive understanding of both your revenue drivers and your cost drivers.
Right.
And it's an industry of really, really small margins, but it has really, really large numbers attached to it. So, 1% is a very significant number. There's lots of zeros, and you need special calculators that have enough zeros on them, which is what our business sort of deals with. Actually, can I use that word calculator? That sounds like a dinosaur, doesn't it?
Go for it.
But I mean, and so really, it's about it's the margins in hundreds, if not thousands, of things in the
Right.
organisation where you're trying to find the 1% variances and the 2% variances, and the sum of that on the cost as a reduction gives you a competitive cost base. And on the revenue side, of course, you're doing the opposite. You want to maximise that number. So those 1 and 2%ers, on the revenue lines being higher rather than lower, then drives a higher revenue, and that is how you get to a profit situation. So our transformation journey is complex, and typically an airline transformation takes, if you've done it well and efficiently and well resourced, would be 5 years,
Right.
and anything up to, I've seen 10 and 12 as well. That's
Right.
at the extreme end.
Right.
But if you said, if you did it in a good way, it should take you 5 to 7 years or so. And we're trying to do this in 3. So we like setting ambitious agendas for ourselves. But this is what we're doing. We're going through all of those line items, and we're looking at them, and we say, well, are these right, and are they where they should be? And how do you determine where they should be? On the cost side, there's lots of benchmarks.
Okay.
So you go and look at the best in the world and you say, what do they achieve? And what are we doing? And how do we look in comparison to them? And it may not just be about price either, because sometimes people assume on the cost side it's just about what you pay. Not necessarily. It's also about what efficiency you're getting out of it. Right? What are the implications on aircraft in particular? One of our biggest cost lines is the maintenance and engineering. What the implications on how we fly the aircraft, where we fly the aircraft, drives a very different maintenance expense item. So we have to be able to model all this and understand it's, how sensitive it is to one thing or another. To give you an idea of what the biggest cost buckets are in aviation, there's effectively 4.
Okay.
Your people, your salary costs.
Right.
Right? We're very human dependent in so much.
Right.
Large numbers of cabin crew, large numbers of pilots, large numbers of engineers, and then of course you've got to have a whole, large sales forces, and then you've got to have a whole back office function that takes care of all the other stuff.
Right.
And business services, if you like.
Right.
So people, number one. Fuel, actually, the largest one is fuel.
Right.
I should have started with that. I haven't put them in the right order. Fuel.
Okay.
And fuel, because we just burn through so much of it, getting something that big and heavy to take off and fly up into the sky and across the planet.
Yeah.
There's a significant fuel bill. The maintenance and engineering, which I've touched on, that's another one. That's the third
Another
of
cost.
the fourth.
Yeah.
And the last one is what I call the ecosystem costs.
Okay.
So the ecosystems costs means things like your airport charges, your parking charges, your landing charges, your air navigation charges, your ground handling charges, and your cargo handling charges. So these are the 4 biggest cost buckets. Having said that, the totality of those 4 items is about, let's call it 65%, maybe 70% of the total cost base.
Okay.
So when you're looking at an industry margin of 3% on
Yeah.
average,
Right.
that balance of the 30%, if you get even that balance of the 30% wrong, you're in trouble. In fact, even if you get 10% of it wrong, you're in trouble. Because if an industry margin is a 3% profit and your
Right.
costs are 10% out, you're in trouble.
Right.
right? So you literally have to go and have a look at the smallest things, and you got to just keep drilling down and down and down. And when you're finished, you get back up the top and you start again and you keep going. So the best airlines in the world who deliver the best business results don't have an end to transformation. They get through a heavy lift to get themselves into a viable economic condition, but then it's a constant transformation, and you stop calling it a transformation, and it's really just business as usual in this industry. It's constantly changing.
Yeah.
And even when you think you're done, you start all over again and you do it all again, and you will find more. And the best airlines in the world actually do this. And I've seen it in other places I've worked. And that's the MO we need to institutionalize into a culture even. So that people get comfortable with change, that people get comfortable with needing to be agile and curious and thinking outside of just looking at what's here. Because on the revenue side now, to turn to that, is it all right if I go there?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
So if I go on,
I'm excited to know that as well.
so on the revenue side, so I said on the cost, outside of the fuel price, which we don't control, a lot of the rest of the cost base we actually can control. It's decisions we make which drive that cost base.
Yeah, like you said, yeah.
The space where we don't drive it as much is the revenue.
Right.
Because on the cost side, we're cost controllers, but on the revenue side, we are what I call price takers, not price makers.
Oh, okay.
You might think as a consumer, of course you're a price maker. What are you talking about? I go to your website, you give me a price, you've made that price.
Yeah.
And that's true. But the rest of the story, if you look outside, is we don't live alone. We operate primarily in an international marketplace. And so our competitors are not local. Our competitors are other airlines we fly up against to the destinations we fly to. Or they compete with us because you can either we go indirectly or they go indirectly. We're selling a lot of the same networks. And so how do we compete with them? And right next door to us here, we have some of the biggest and best in the world that we compete against. And here's this little minnow of Oman Air trying to carve out, our own reason for being and if you like, our own USP compared to them, which enables us to survive. Otherwise, we don't survive.
Yeah.
And so, if, for example, I wanted and I needed to cover my costs, charge you 200 riyals to fly to London, but the guys next door are selling their seats for 100, then we'll have an empty aircraft.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, we're the price taker. So they are the big guys. They are the guys with the bigger networks, the multiple daily frequencies, and they drive the market pricing, and we have to stay relevant to that. And when you're that big and we're smaller, we survive. We actually have to sell even cheaper. It's not even a case of matching them.
Even if you're not making a profit on that?
No, well, we don't do that, and we can come to that in terms of what we've done with our fleet since we've joined, and we've shrunk the airline to fix the foundations to go back to growth, right? But no, of course, I mean, we're not going to go and fly loss-making routes, otherwise we're just going to repeat what we've done in the past. So it's a case of finding, even at that lower revenue price, we have a cost base against that where we still make a margin. And on some routes we won't have. And then if you don't think you can ever change that equation, these are then routes you don't fly anymore. And in some cases, it defies logic because from a consumer point of view, people will say, but the planes were always full on that route.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
This is one of the few industries where you can fill planes and still lose your pants. Because those fares which you don't set, and some airlines have different dynamics and different profit requirements relative to you, and whereas coming back to my London example, perhaps it's not a great airfare, although mind you, it is a strong route for us. I'm not saying London's the right choice for this, but you have a great airfare and it doesn't do well for us. But for them, they may have 10 other routes you're not in where they make a lot of money, and this one over here doesn't make, or maybe loses them a little bit, but it feeds a lot of traffic onto the profitable ones. So there's a different mix of people on board their aircraft. They're not all going to the same place. So it could be still worthwhile for them, whereas for us it might not be, and it could be the other way around as well, in our direction, right? So it's not an industry where, how can I say, if you're manufacturing, I'm looking at a pen on your table, so I'm using, maybe I should use your phone, it's more modern. I use your phone. You know what it costs you to manufacture the phone, you're selling it around the world. You know what it costs you because you manufacture centrally for the globe. Your internal cost base is the same. You put it over there, and as long as your selling price is above your cost, you're okay. Yeah. And so, on that unit, you can say, well, my selling price relative to my cost is a constant equation. When you look at an airline and you fly multiple routes, Not all routes are made the same. So it's not like you lose the same on every route or you make the same on every route. You
Yeah.
can be making tons of money on that one, and then your worst one might be all the way down here in massive losses. And your chart from highest to lowest kind of goes like this in this industry. So it's a whole different scenario, and it comes back to that price-taking issue, which drives that. The example of the phone, you're the price maker,
Yeah.
and that's the difference.
Yeah.
So it's a unique industry,
Yeah.
and it's very complex. But that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can just go on, and for that one full hour, I think you can just explain the whole
Just
cost
this.
and revenue only. And that'll be very interesting to hear. But
They actually write aircraft economics books, which are this thick, and they you can do aviation courses at university, and you can spend years just learning about the economics of airlines.
Wow.
It's
no
quite complex.
wonder being a chartered accountant helps, right?
Oh, we're going to that, are we? Okay. Yeah, look,
I was going through your profile.
that's okay.
And that really caught my attention, which said that he's a chartered accountant, has a degree in economics, and
Yeah.
then my mind tells me, and he's in the aviation industry.
Right.
And for over 30 years.
Yeah.
Can you take me through that transition? How did that happen?
Yeah,
Because any which ways you're a qualified CA.
And look, I am, and so yes, I'm not a pilot and I'm not an engineer, and I haven't come through an airline as a grading or or an aviation related course. I'm not an engineer.
Right.
I'm a business guy.
Right.
And I, in the latter part of my career as a chartered accountant, I was a consultant, and I had 3 different industry specializations.
Okay.
One was aviation.
Oh.
One was hospitality and leisure, so a lot of hotel work, basically.
Wow. Okay.
And then the third one was casinos. And from the business side, not gambling in them. and I've always loved business. I've loved it as a kid, and that's why I ended up doing finance and economics at school, because it was just entirely how I was
So
wired.
you're a number guy.
I'm a numbers guy. It's
Yeah.
all about the numbers. Show me the numbers, and then I believe you, right? If you
Yeah.
can't show me the numbers, then it's just words coming out of somebody's
Right,
mouth, right?
right.
And that applies whether you're talking about revenues or costs or marketing or on-time performance or safety statistics, whatever it is. Show me the numbers. Show me the numbers.
Right.
But I fell in love with the aviation industry when I had aviation clients because of its complexity.
Oh,
And-
okay. Just like how you explained.
Right. And as an advisor, you give a lot of advice, but you do no execution yourself, really, right, if you're consulting. And I thought, God, it looks interesting on the other side of the desk. So that was the driver for me, to be honest with you. I didn't do it to get wealthy, because had I wanted that, I would have gone to gaming and I would have retired 15 years ago and probably owned my own island. But I didn't go down that path. And I wanted to get on the other side of the desk, and so I looked for an opportunity. And actually, my first role in aviation was a finance role. It was using that background.
Oh,
and,
got it.
And it kind of went from there. And I was lucky to be working for a CEO years later down the track who had a very lateral mind on what executive leadership in an airline looks like. And he said, well, executive leaders, before they have a shot at a C-level job or a CEO job, maybe, you need to have worked in lots of different aspects of the airline so you understood the business, because it was so complex.
Right.
So I went from finance into strategy, into network, into marketing, into loyalty programs, and then over onto the operational side.
Wow.
I've been in different operational functions at a C-level. In an airline sense, I've been a CFO, a chief operating officer, a chief commercial officer, a chief strategy officer, and 5 times a CEO now.
Whoa.
So I've been blessed, and this
Right.
industry has not let me down, and no 2 6-month periods in all the years I've been doing this have ever been the same. So it's not even remotely boring, and every day I get out of bed with the same level of energy and passion for it, and it's an adventure.
I'm sure.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Wow, it was so lovely to hear. And I so totally agree with you that you got to work in different departments to understand and know that what technically happens operationally.
Right.
For you to even take a call, or later if you just kind of, taking a decision that this is what it's going to be.
Right.
Talking about your experience, like you rightly mentioned, that you worked in different departments, you worked across the globe, like various countries, and now you're here in Oman. Got 2 questions around that. My first question, which is my favorite question, and I often ask my guests, what is the difference that you feel working here in Oman as compared to the rest of the world?
Do you mean professionally or personally? Because
Both. Let's do that.
answers.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would love to hear both.
Look, I mean, on a personal level, it's an absolutely stunning country. As I said, I'm shocked. I had no idea what was sitting here, living next door all this time. And frankly, we have world-class tourism assets here, and part of the job, and I'm excited to be a part of this, together with our colleagues in tourism and commerce and the hotels and everything else, to be looking on building Oman as a destination itself, because you just got to get people here. You get them here, you'll sell them, and that comes down to the beauty of the place. It comes down to the whole feel, and I'll call it Zen, of the country. I mean, this is, in all of my years, I've never lived in a place where I get in the car in the morning and I arrive at the office and I feel more relaxed than when I left home. And this is unique to Oman, but it just tells you what, it personifies Oman and how you feel here. I feel like I live in even though it's a city, Muscat, I feel like I live in the largest resort. Because it just has that feel about it, and people have time for you. So there's a warmth in the people. There's a genuineness in the people. And the way that Oman has been developed, it's not losing its natural assets and the look and feel of what God put on the earth and what God put into Oman. Right. And I think that makes it special as well, because a lot of countries ignore that and they just go looking for other things, and they haven't compromised any of that. So those things really stood out on a personal level, and that was one of the factors in me coming here, actually.
So you found your mental peace here?
Well, I had to think, why are people going to come here? Because my first business question went to, why would people fly this airline when you consider the giants that are around it? Right. And I had no idea how Oman was different until I came here.
Of course.
So now that's our USP. People say, well, how do you compete as an airline with the other guys? And I say, well, I've got an asset they don't have, and it's called Oman, the country, not Oman Air, the airline, right? And as I said before, we're an enabler to that. And that's our USP. And if we focus on that, and this is what we've spent a lot of time commercially focusing on. When I started, 85% of our traffic was transiting through the airport. People were not getting off in Oman. They were using this cheap fares, quick transit, and they went out. Didn't put any money into the local economy, didn't help feed hotels and restaurants and taxis and shopping malls and so on. All the tourism attractions, none of that. So we've moved that to more than 50% now. Actually is point to point. We call it point to point in the industry. It means people who are getting off here. So in the context of, even though the airline shrunk to fix itself in terms of its total capacity, really what we lost is that transit traffic, because our focus has been on retaining the point to point. It's also our USP. If we're going to try and compete on transit traffic as our core business proposition, then we are head on with the other guys next door who do all of that, and they're much bigger than what we are, and we will never catch them to be able to compete with that. So this is our focus, and this is our differentiator, and this is what gives us a future.
Right. Oh, actually, to think of it, that makes a lot of sense right there. So you spent the last...
I'm a finance guy. I like logic.
Well, I would say that, Oman Air just has the right guy right now at the moment. By the way, before joining Oman Air, you were there. You were the founding CEO of the low-cost airline in Jeddah, Flyer Deal, right? Before that, if I'm not wrong, I think it was an Indonesian airline, another low-cost airline, you were the founding CEO there as well. So you have quite a lot of experience in the low-cost airlines, from the launch, from establishing them. And now it's a legacy airline, right? So it comes with its own pros and cons.
Right.
If you had to explain what is the major difference between low-cost airlines and running a legacy airline, challenges and positives?
I don't think the running is so much the issue. There are differences in the business model which I can talk about. I think it's the organisational differences rather than the business model that drive the differences. I mean, let me elaborate a little bit. I mean, my career started in legacy airlines. And you mentioned Singapore Airlines and Qantas. They're full service, and Singapore, one of arguably the best customer service airlines in the world, right? My first airline I started in Australia all the way back in the 80s was also a full service airline. I kind of fell into the low-cost airlines when I was at the Qantas Group. And when I was head of strategy there, we were looking at a rollout of their low-cost airline called Jetstar. And there was a unit, there was already a team working on a Jetstar Australia launch, and there was an opportunity to set one up in Singapore. And I went there really wearing my strategy hat on to look at a business case and a business plan, local shareholders agreement. And
happening?
I kind of fell into the CEO's job to establish it because of all the work I'd put into that side of it and the planning. And from there started a journey of startups and transformations, I guess, as opposed to being in the legacy environment. And startups and transformation are great because you're either fixing things or you're building things. So it's change, it's dynamic. There's there's things to do. The clean sheet of paper, which is the way I'd start before saying it was a low-cost airline, is different to doing the transformation as I have here with Oman Air. And the reason being is I don't have legacy. I don't have to change mindsets. I can build a culture from scratch, purpose-made, rather than take one and have to take it to a different level. So in a way, it's easier. In another way, it's harder because as a startup, you tend to be not so well capitalized. You've got to be much smarter with your money. You need to, you're not a brand. So it's not like I walked out of Qantas and I put out all Singapore Airlines where you'd put the business card down and your power came with the brand on your business card. And when you're running a small airline, it's yourself is the brand. It's not really that brand, right?
Yeah.
So it's much more difficult to do.
Yeah.
That's what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
The low costs obviously have a whole different customer proposition. They have a whole different onboard product, and their entire mantra is I have to have the lowest cost base because I'm going after a demographic that is just buying on price and nothing else. I don't care that I don't have a loyalty program. They don't care that there's no food, there's no entertainment. They don't care that their knees might be around their ears. It doesn't matter. They're just buying on price, and therefore your insurance policy for no one running you out of business is that no one can beat my cost base. I'm as good as anybody else. Because the minute somebody's got a much better cost base than you, they can price slightly above that but below your cost. So you lose where they make. So your driver was your cost base the whole time.
Numbers
because
again.
that enabled you to offer the lowest price to the market.
Right.
So that was the driver. When you now fast forwarding here, because I did a succession of low costs, although in the Saudia group I also did some stuff outside of Flyadeal as well, but it was predominantly Flyadeal. So I'm here now and I've gone back to my roots in a way, but there's a big transformation here as opposed to being in a big successful airline, which I had back in the past. We do have a cost problem, and I think my low-cost DNA helps in looking at our cost base here and saying, right, we need to bring our cost base down, because one of the challenges we have at Oman Air, we know our cost base is higher than our near neighbours. So yes, they provide a lot of bells and whistles, but so do we. But we do it more expensively than they do.
Yeah.
So where I have to sell cheaper than them though.
Yeah.
So don't forget that. I have to sell cheaper, but
Yeah.
at the same time, my cost is higher than them. So we have to
That's
fix
a
the cost
challenge.
base.
Yeah.
I'm so used to being focused on the cost base.
Yeah.
We know what to do
But
in
that
that
makes
space.
sense. Yeah.
And then on the revenue side and the product side, where our customers do care about their food experience, their loyalty program. They do care about the pitch. They want a premium class. They have lounges. There's all of that there. I've had that in my past as well, and it's a lot of fun to be back in that environment as well, because it just gives me more things that I have to work with as opposed to really just being driven by the cost side alone.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hugely transformative work that's gone into our revenue in the last 15-16 months. Our chief commercial officer joined just a couple of weeks after me. He's also a very strong pedigree, and the transformation we've been put through the revenue side of the airline has been the one that we've had the most progress on so far, because we actually accelerated that, because we were also flying quite empty aircraft when I joined. And so that was a huge burning platform to get on, like, we need people on the plane yesterday.
Yeah, correct.
So, yeah.
What goes behind when you decide on a destination? Like, this is the destination that we are flying to, or it's going to be a seasonal one, or we got to stop. I understand the revenue. I'm totally clear on that.
Yeah.
I understand on the cost side as well. But I'm sure there are other factors as well that go into consideration when you announce a destination.
That's also a complex thing. And actually, again, the easiest thing to model out is what your cost base is when you model these routes. So you can work out quite easily, what is it going to cost me to fly from point A to point B? That is not complex to work out, and you'll get a very accurate answer on that one.
Right.
The tricky question is, what are we going to earn in terms of revenue? How will we fill the plane? What is the demographic? What are they going to pay for an airfare? Is that airfare that, if we fill the aircraft enough, an airfare that's going to give us a profit or a loss? We can model all of this stuff. There's data points out there where, on routes where there's other people are flying that direct flight, you have direct fare data. where there's no one flying that route, and it's quite new, and we would be the first. There is indirect revenue data of how other people are currently travelling between those 2 points via other intermediary points, and how many of them are doing that, and what are they paying for their airfares. Therefore, what could we expect for an airfare? And one of the things you can drive a little bit of a premium on, compared to the cheapest indirect airfares, the cheapest direct airfares will be a bit higher because of the convenience.
Oh, right.
And that rule applies everywhere in the world in this industry.
Yeah,
By the way,
exactly.
it's not unique to Oman.
Yeah.
So we come up with estimates. Those fares, though, and the area for, the risk of error is that those fares, that your estimates of the fares could be wrong. And remember, coming back to a 3% margin, if you said I got my airfare 3% wrong, it's not much, is it? But actually, with the volume of people you move, it can be the difference between it being profitable and unprofitable. And being out 2 or 3 or 4% is not difficult. Okay, you won't be out 30%, so we're not talking about that. But you could be out a relatively small percentage, but it may be the difference between viability and financial losses.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Okay, I had another question. We tend to read these news items and news pieces where they say that it's the national airline and contributes to the GDP of the country.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
At the same time, within a few months, we hear another news where we hear that the national airline is actually making X number of losses as well. Now, it's quite a contradictory situation here. How can you be contributing to the GDP when you're making losses? Since we're discussing numbers, we're discussing finances, we're discussing cost. Can you explain that to me?
Well, the question is whether if you separate them into two separate items, they both can be true at the same time.
How?
Okay. So the losses of the airline are very clear.
Yeah.
We have our revenues, we have our costs. If our costs are greater than our revenues, we're losing money. Not rocket science.
Correct. Got
Tick.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
However, for every person who we bring into Oman and gets off and takes a taxi and goes and stays in a hotel and does a bunch of tours and spends money in the restaurants and goes to the shopping malls, they're dropping more money in the economy. So is that money more than the losses of the airline? I've been around this industry for 30 over years, and it's always something that's in contention and a debating point, because there's a lot of subjectivity around, exactly how you calculate. It's easy to calculate the airline's losses. It's much more difficult to calculate the GDP contribution. There are formulas, there are ways, there are methodologies, but there's elements of, assumptions and in terms of how you value that, and depending on where that number falls out. But there is value in it. Otherwise, you'd have no airlines. I mean, put crudely, could you imagine a Dubai if there was no Emirates, right? Or you could say the same of Sharjah or Abu Dhabi or Riyadh or Jeddah, and the same applies here, right? So I think it's important, and that's, I said early on in our conversation, it's important that we have a successful national carrier, but its level of drain on the economy cannot be huge, and ours was. The debt on our balance sheet, you touched on 2 billion. The debt on our balance sheet is beyond what is a normal thing. Our interest expense on our borrowings, because of all that debt on the balance sheet, makes one of our, in every other airline I've worked, there's the top 4 cost items. We have to add a 5th here for us. It's interest. Never seen that anywhere else. Such is the level of debt and the losses. So there comes a point where it's just not right anymore. And we got to that point, and that's what we're trying to address right now.
Right. Wow. You're doing a tough job right there. But yeah, as long as it's numbers, I'm assuming that you're happy, excited, that, like how you said. Okay, talking about, I had so many questions while you were answering, but I didn't want to kind of interrupt there.
Not at all.
What goes behind when you decide the pricing of a particular ticket? So I'm going to have a following question to that, where I'm going to ask that, okay, let me ask that question first, because I'm really excited to know. What is the right way of booking your ticket? What's the real hack behind that? Should we be booking a week prior, a month prior, 10 months prior? Or should we just wait for that sale in the anticipation of it that, there's going to be a public holiday, there might just be a ticket sale? What is the real hack? Or should we just go through an agent and just tell them that, you know what, just book a ticket for me? But what's the right way?
I think I've got to be careful what I say because, we don't want to give away secrets that gets us in trouble, right? Well, actually, they don't get us in trouble, but we're not trying to sort of manufacture consumer behaviour. But it's actually not rocket science at the end of the day.
Okay.
Obviously, for someone to part with money well in advance of when they actually want to do something, they'll expect a very big discount. And that's effectively the way the airlines price. So generally speaking, and it's a generalisation, the earlier you buy the ticket, the cheaper it is. Now, if you buy too far out, that may not end up being exactly the case. If you bought 10 months out, maybe at 8 months out there was a sale and it might have been a little bit cheaper. But if you start then saying you get into a 1 month, 21 days, a 14 days, a 7-day cycle, that generally doesn't happen. They just go up once you start getting in very close to the departure date. But general rule of thumb, and that's the unknown question, where is it? Is it 30 days out? Is it 60?
Sweet
Is it
spot,
90? Is it 120? Is it 270?
Yeah.
Because most airlines put their airfares on sale 365 days out. Or a lot of them do. But very few book at that stage because they wouldn't necessarily be a sale fare. They'd be cheaper than, if you like, the close-in fares. But if there was a sale 2 months later, it may not be cheaper than that. So, and there's no hard and fast rule. So it's a little bit of a gamble. But they will all generally be cheap that far out, regardless. They don't go very expensive 10 months out, right? So, but what's cheap can also vary. It depends on the destination. As I said, no two destinations are the same. Some routes drive higher average fares on them than other routes if it's purely leisure, and it's got a lot of competition around it. It might be cheaper if it's seasonal. Then in the off-season, if it's heavily seasonal, then in the off-season it could be really cheap. In the peak of the season, even if you buy very early, it'll be cheaper, but it won't be as cheap as if you took a off-season cheap fare. So whether you're buying in-season, out-of-season makes a difference. Earlier generally is better. I think if you're talking the premium classes, business and business studio and us and other people's first and business, they don't generally discount those fares too much. So generally where they start, they only go in one direction and go up. But in economy class, what I said earlier, that applies more so for economy class.
So safe to say when the sales are there, maybe that's a good time to book your tickets. Obviously not too close to your departure date, slightly before that.
Yeah, and one of the things I noticed in this market, which I found, it varies by market as well. I know we're talking to an Omani audience, so in the Middle East, it's generally a late booking market. Okay, so maybe you might still get fares, 6 weeks out or a month out at times of the year. Whereas if you went to places which people will book those 365 days out, and I know, for example, only because I came from Australia, there's plenty of other examples like this. And now we're in September, people will already be booking their summer holidays for next year now. They've just finished, so they'll be booking for next year because they know they all get full and the airfares get very expensive.
Whoa, talk about planning there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I wish it was like that here, but it's not.
You can just kind of manage it well. I understand. I get it.
When I got to Saudi and we started Fly Deal, it was kind of funny because, it was my first time in the Middle East, so I didn't realise how late booking a market it was. And like 4 days out, the planes were empty. And I thought, my God, all our planes are going to go empty. This was in my first month or two when we started flying. And then all of a sudden they just filled.
Yeah.
Because it just comes in so late. We're not that bad here, but it's still a late booking market.
Yeah. See, there's a difference of perception. Like, you don't like an empty flight, but if you ask us, we're like, that's like luxury for us.
It's great if you get it, but that airline might not be around for long for you to keep getting it if they keep doing that, right? So you need them to
survive.
survive.
Safe to say, Oman Air, I've never traveled where I've not had people. It's always been full. So that's there. Okay, talking about the miles here, what's the real hack behind that, by the way? I've heard people say that you should try and travel from the same airline as much as you can so that you keep collecting your points, your miles, and eventually in the long run that adds up and you get a good deal. Or you feel that no, you should explore different airlines and you should keep going and as per the destination you should say. Is it true that you should try and travel from the same airline?
The short answer is yes. But let me split my answer into two components.
Okay.
Right? So let's just pretend this was a world that everyone had their own loyalty program and there was no affiliations, because that's the second part.
Right.
So the first part. Then definitely 100% stick locally, because most of the places you'd be flying out of here, if you're living here, the local airline looks after and on a direct basis. So it's better to bank there than it is to bank in an airline who's always going to have to take you via another point. Right. So convenience is a driver, and also maybe that airline from another point may not be going to some of the places, or it's going backwards to go forwards, and you don't want to go that way, and then you pick another airline in the other direction. If you spread your mileage accumulation across too many airlines, you'll never get anywhere, because the airlines, all of them with their loyalty programs, are smart enough to force you to bank a certain amount of miles with them to get the higher privileges and to go to the higher levels.
Right.
So unless you're someone who lives on a plane 5 days a week, you might be able to have 3 or 4 programs. If you're someone who travels 3-4 times a year, 6 times, 10 times a year, it doesn't work for you to split that amongst a number of airlines. Now, what the alliances have brought in, and we've just gone into Oneworld at the start of July. So this is something that's a huge plus now for our Sindbad members. What the Alliance brings in is you can still keep your base currency with your home airline, but then you've got a whole range of other airlines who are going to give you credits in your status in your home program.
Whoa, yeah.
So if you fly another Oneworld airline,
Right.
not only will you earn miles in the Sindbad program, you'll also earn status credits. And they're important because there's a distinction. Miles give you miles for redemption, but if you also want to go up at the loyalty levels, which give you things like priority check-in and business class and first class for those that have it, you don't get those credits that allow you to move through those levels. So it enables you to bank locally. There's other reasons also. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, these days as well, the loyalty programs are more than just miles and status credits on flights. You can also earn it through everyday life. So hotels, yes, but even more so. If it was an everyday card that you can use on everyday life, let's say here in Oman. So I go to the fuel stop, I get points. I go to the supermarket, I get points. I drop off and buy my shawarma on the way home, I get points, right? And you can consolidate and bank it into a program. Then that enables you to build your points base more than just what you're flying.
Whoa.
The most extreme, I'll give you an extreme example.
Yes, please.
I've got a friend, not here, he's in the Far East.
Okay.
And I've got a friend there who only flies first class, and is every year on 4 or 5 holidays he does with his family a year, and he doesn't fly with that airline at all through the year. But he's a member of their loyalty program, and all the different ways he can accumulate the miles to bank into that program.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah, getting it. Yeah.
So, and you know, our Sindbad program needs work. It also needs a transformation. That journey on that one starts in the next month. And so we hope by the year end we've got a new program to launch. And our vision for this is to make it an everyday card, and people can use it in everyday life. And yes, you can then use it to, you know, redeem flights on Oman Air and take holidays. You can also use it to redeem on, in the same way you can earn from our partner airlines and Oneworld and other partners we have. You can also use it for redemptions, but also you can use it in everyday life here. And we can also look to provide redemption options outside of flight tickets. There are business people who travel that often and says, I can't use all my miles from flights. I need other things. I don't mind using it to buy my kids a new iPhone every year, right? So, you know, have those local options there. And I think, you know, you could look at redemption opportunities over time that are more than just even buying products. It might be other experiences, right? It could be in restaurants. It could be whatever. And then you can do local discount programs you can work with your partners locally as well. They give you points, but also give you a discount on their products. So, you know, I think, and the most sophisticated and best performing are that way. Qantas was one of the airlines that I worked for in my life, and Qantas has one of the most incredible loyalty schemes in the world, and such a significant portion of the country's credit card spend gets banked into the Qantas loyalty program. It's amazing, the numbers. That business by itself makes $300 million profit a year. Wow. Just the loyalty program. Whoa. It's not uncommon, and if you go and study this around the world, some people will say the loyalty program of Airline X is more valuable, has a higher market value than the airline itself does.
No
way. Yes. It's a tremendously powerful asset and thing for an airline to use. If you get it right, it's extremely, and it has counter-cyclical economic trends. So, you know, the Qantas program was profitable through COVID, for example.
Wow.
Yeah, well, people were spending
Yeah,
at home
exactly.
on credit
Yeah, they
cards
were
and
at home.
the
Yeah.
online shopping, right?
Yeah.
So they were
Whoa,
getting it out of
smart.
that, and it diversifies the earning stream. You talk about your sources of revenue. We didn't really talk too much about this. There's ticket sales, but then there's ancillary revenues, and we have cargo revenue, but also there can be loyalty revenue, and that loyalty revenue comes from when someone is transacting and accumulating points through our partners. Not necessarily through the airline, but through the partners.
Yeah.
That in itself is a revenue stream to the airline.
Wow, smart. You literally had my eyes, ears, everything open right there the minute you shared the numbers. And honestly, I never thought of it that during COVID, an airline actually made money through the loyalty program. That's quite unheard of and very smart, I must say. So how important is the Sindbad program for Oman Air? What are the changes that you're planning to bring in that? And what is that one thing that we should be excited about now?
Well, loyalty programs the world over are there for a reason. The customer values it, and it does from the business point of view. It does lock people in, but it has to be a compelling program because you have lots of choices,
Right?
And not just airline programs, because you can perhaps find airline redemption opportunities through a banking relationship. Or a hotel relationship. It doesn't have to be a relationship with an airline per se. Right? So there's a reason why airline programs are more successful than others, which we can touch on if you like. It's a business reason, to be honest with you, but it translates into what the customer wants, and that's why they're so popular. The Sindbad program is a way that we reward our most loyal customers, and they take great pride in saying, "I'm a Sindbad Gold," and hopefully we'll have another level. So there's a small snippet for you, but nothing to be announced yet. But we think we'll be introducing another level, another tier of a higher tier of membership.
Okay.
The program itself has been there for a long time. Quite honestly, we've hardly invested in it for a bunch of years, and it's probably it isn't where it should be, but therefore it's on our radar, and we're working on a transformation program for the loyalty program itself.
Okay.
We expect to have that finalised during Q4 this year, so it's not far away.
Okay.
And then hopefully by the end of the year we'll be able to make the announcements of what all the changes are and all the additional value and benefits that'll come from it.
Wow.
Our dream and aspiration for the program is that when people have a Sindbad card, they can use it in every aspect of life, not just flying, not just hotels, not just through credit card, but also, everyday experience, restaurants, theatres, convenience stores, fuel stations. Wow. And you can accumulate all of that into one miles account. And what that means is a faster accumulation of points, which leads hopefully to a faster opportunity for redemption for you, whether it be an airline seat or whether it be through all the different partners that we have that are just not airlines in that aspect as well. The program has grown significantly stronger through our entry into the One World Alliance, because the beauty of the One World Alliance is it's not just a reciprocal points earning and burning relationship, but also a status earning and burning relationship, right? So you would get credits towards your status tier in the Sindbad program by flying with one of our One World partners. Right? And generally when they're outside of the alliances, they may not have that link. It may be just purely the points.
Right.
So I think that generates a far more valuable program for us as well.
Right.
So I think you can look forward to, One World has just started. We don't have all the linkages with every airline in One World yet, but it will be within the space of the next month or two. Wow. So they'll all be there. There's already a bunch of them there, but the rest of them will come online shortly as well. And then what I would see is that we would expand our partnership base to outside the airline sphere far more aggressively as we head into next year as well, just to expand its reach.
Right.
The best airline loyalty programs and cards in the world are the strongest in those economies, and there's no reason it should be any different here. It's just we've been a bit underinvested, but that's an area we see as an enormous potential, both from a business point of view, but a locking in our customer point of view, but also providing something of value to the customer, which is why they would stay locked in as well, right? So we've got to drive that value proposition for them.
Right. Wow, that's very interesting to know. And once I get that, the new Sindbad card, I think I'll be swiping it every single day just so that I can collect
That's
the points.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah. And once those points get collected, I'll be using it only for the upgrades.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm a victim of that sort of use of points as well. I think that provides great value.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But by the way, talking about upgrades, what is the real hack behind that? Do you think that the first time only we should go and book our business class tickets or first class tickets, or we should just wait for like a...
I wouldn't call it a hack. I think it really comes down to how many points you think you can accumulate, right? Because an upgrade means, by definition, you are going to buy a lower class airfare to start with, and you are going to pay for that. So it's not truly a fully free ticket.
Right.
But, you know, the redemptions in business class, because they're so full these days across the world, this is not on us, I'm saying just generally.
Yeah, generally.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. That they've made the redemption number of points for straight out business class redemption higher. So, you know, yes, you take a risk of not having the business class seat by the time you travel, and you might end up with your economy class seat, but it would be a cheaper redemption if you get it that way. And people who can't accumulate enough points to get to the full redemption, to say a fully free business class ticket, then a part payment of economy class and using the miles to make up the rest of the value is a smart way to go. So, you know, when you're limited for the number of points, yeah. With the occasional downside is you may not get the upgrade.
Yeah, because you even have the choice of bidding just before you actually travel. And
depends on the program. So some airlines do that, but just before travel tends to be a lot more expensive as well. So again, it's a little bit like the airfares.
Yeah.
The earlier, the better the chances are.
Yeah.
But then there's also the airlines, sometimes they will allocate some seats early, but if they're taken up early and the seats haven't sold in another way, they may release some later on, but they could be more expensive. The closer they are to departure, when I mean more expensive, means more points, right? But still, might be still useful. So things to be aware of and to keep in your mind.
Another thing I wanted to ask, how does it really happen when an aircraft is overbooked? Like, you know that these are the number of seats in the aircraft, these are the ticket sales, this is how it's happening. But many a times it happens that when you go just to board the flight, you're told that the flight is overbooked. Maybe they want to put you on another flight, or they just want to make a few arrangements and want you to catch like the flight that is on the following day. How does that happen? How does that work?
Look, honestly, overbookings is a common industry thing. And you don't do it with an intent of wanting people to be offloaded, because that ends up being more expensive than actually just the airfare that you collect for them, right?
Right.
Because there may be a necessity to buy on another airline, which means more expensive, or putting them onto a flight at the last minute, which would otherwise be a higher revenue generating seat, right? If you were to sell it rather than just take someone who maybe bought a cheap seat.
Yeah.
So it's not ideal, and airlines don't plan it from the perspective of wanting to offload people. It's done because statistically what the industry has learnt over many, many years is there is a lot of seat wastage, because unlike a lot of the low-cost airlines who have non-refundable fares, so they don't overbook a lot, because i.e. you don't turn up, they keep the money. Right. A lot for a full-service airline, a lot of the fares are refundable, and therefore people don't care.
Right.
And you have last-minute no-shows or last-minute changes in the last few hours where they just call and say, book me on this other flight, and then you have a lot of wastage.
Right.
So it's really just to stop the wastage.
Yeah.
The pressure on airfares has been so relenting. I think if there's one thing you talk about in real terms, there's a story, and it's a very common story. It's not an urban myth, that airfares reduce in real terms. The absolute values may go up, but in real terms, airfares generally go down. So in that context, the airlines are always under pressure, and especially with the advent of the low-cost airlines and the cheaper fares that they bring to market as well, you can't hold the differentials out to the same extent. So you have to really just try and maximise the number of people on board to counter that the airfares actually are quite competitive.
Right. There was also news that Wizz Air might just be added to the Oman airline industry.
Right.
You've heard the news? You have anything more to add on to that? Is it happening? Is it not happening?
I don't know, honestly, to tell you the truth.
You
but
definitely know something about
I've been in markets where they've come in and out. And you know they're a big and very credible airline, and they run a good show and they run a profitable business, and so I have nothing but respect for them. But they also exist in markets to make money, so they've only got a profit motive. So if they're coming here, it's only because they think they can make money, and if they don't come here, it's they believe they can't make money. And so you know, the Middle East is a tough market. They've been in some other markets. They've recently pulled out and closed down their airline in Abu Dhabi.
Right.
Doesn't mean anything.
That's exactly when the news was around that it might just come to Oman.
Yeah. Well. Maybe.
It might.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
maybe.
But what does that mean? If just in case if it comes, what does that mean for Oman Air?
Look, they're a low-cost airline,
Right.
so it's not the market we compete in.
Right.
They don't provide, the food and the entertainment and the lounges and the frequent flyer points and whatever. We're different. So,
Right.
in the same way, I mean, we have another airline in Oman,
Right.
and we see them as a compatriot. Fighting the same fight. And when I say not fighting each other, I mean fighting the fight in
Same.
terms of Oman, Team Oman,
Right.
because they appeal to a different demographic than us. And, it's more in that airline's demographic, the Wizz Air model, than it is in our demographic.
Right, right. What are the biggest two challenges of an airline industry otherwise, if you would have to say? I mean, like, when I say challenges, like how you said, airline industry is not an easy one to
Yeah.
survive in, right? Like how you said, 3%, 4% margin is what which if you average it down, I think it's like what, $7 or $10 per person per passenger.
Well, if I sold a 100 rial fare to Europe,
Yeah.
a good case scenario is I make 2 or 3 rials profit.
That's unbelievable. And
It's horrible. It's horrible. Most industries work on better margins than that. We work on one of the worst margins in the industry, and and as I say, when you think of the composition of your cost base,
Yeah.
there's so many variables to it, and a lot of them are outside of your control.
Right.
And your airfares can be outside of your control. I mean, if you think about it, the difference between being profitable or not is being able to move a 100 rial airfare to 103. And that you might not be able to do that, and it sounds improbable and impossible that could be the case, right?
Right.
But it's not.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, we often tend to compare airlines, based on the travel or based on the destination. If it's a long flight, if it's anything above and beyond. Okay, I'm talking about something very personal here. Any destination that's above 5 or 6 hours, we will just look at the comfort. We
Right.
will not care about the price. Like, okay, whatever it is, we are going ahead with this particular price.
Right.
But if it's like a short duration, and if it's a whole family, and if there are like more than 10 people traveling together, of course, cost plays a very important role. My question here is that we, as passengers, we only compare so many airlines. When it comes to Oman Air, what is that one particular thing that stands out with Oman Air? Service, yes, I agree. Hospitality, of course, yes.
Yes.
I've already taken the 2 points from you.
Quality product as well. So service, quality of the product, the hard product. I mean, the seats, the space.
Right.
I think we've got the most generous business class bed in the sky. I know a number of very tall people who fly us religiously because there's no other airline they can get on where their feet ain't touching the seat in front of them. So, I mean, we have a special business class. Our economy
Right.
class is comfortable,
Right.
and as you say, the service and the hospitality,
Right.
and we do that really quite well. So those things do stand out. I also think we're price competitive. We have tools that we monitor what happens in a pricing sense in the market, and we know how we sit against the competition. And the fact that we don't have the network breadth of the big guys next door and the frequency, we sell at a discount. Our average fares relative to their average fares are lower. So we do offer value for money. Are we as cheap as some of the European low-cost airlines or the Far East? No, but you're also not getting that product, right? So you pay something for the space and the entertainment and the loyalty miles and the food and the lounge, right, and the service. So there is some value in that. But our fares are generally really good value. And I know you're going to think he's saying this because this is a media interview, but honestly, it is the reality.
Right.
Most of our customers' feedback is that we're generally good value on the airfares. There's the occasional flight where someone's gone and found the last seat on the flight, and it looks expensive to someone who might ask you to go 2 stops and has 100 seats to sell, and we've got one last seat that we're asking a higher price for. That occasionally does happen, but generally speaking, the feedback from our customers is you are good value to fly with.
Right. Talking about the food on the airline, what really goes behind that? How do you come up with that this is what's going to be served on the aircraft? Or because the food also is different for different destinations.
Right.
So what goes behind that?
Lots of things. I mean, people assume that food in the sky is like a restaurant on the ground. It's not like that at all.
Right.
Firstly, even the sort of food you can put into the sky, and the reason for that is your taste buds are affected when you're at 30 or 40,000 feet.
Correct.
So things you might taste on the ground, you may not be able to taste up there. So putting those on board, and someone will say, well, on ground I ate this and this tastes really yummy.
Yeah.
And then this is tasteless.
Bland.
And they don't realise actually it's not the food. If it was back down on the ground, it would be okay. So we have to think about the sort of food we can put on board so that it does have taste. There's the ability of what you can do. We don't have a full kitchen on board. So what can you do with the food on board? How much preparation can actually be on board the aircraft itself? When things are put into aircraft ovens, it's different to ovens on the ground as well. You know, it doesn't come out the same. So what sort of foods translate well into that environment? There is the way we get food on and off the aircraft, right? We've got these little carts that are so wide, and so deep. So you know, if you want to sit there and say, well, we want to put restaurant style, you know, plating up on board the aircraft, then yes, you can do that in a business class, but it's very hard to do that in economy class.
Of course.
Because you have restricted space on the aircraft, so you don't have the storage space as you might if you've got a warehouse or a restaurant with a bigger room out the back. There's no such thing on an aircraft. So there's so many different variables, and then you know there's weight, there's wastage in what you do with that, because you also don't have limitless rubbish facilities on board. I mean, it is really complex. It's another science in itself.
Okay, I have another personal question. Before you joined the aviation industry, you used to travel in a certain way. Then you joined the industry, and now you travel in a certain way. What has changed? What are the things that you picked up on the way and now have become your hacks? Like, okay, fine. I'll assume here that now most of the tickets are taken care of. You have people doing it because it's the aviation industry. Is it or is it not?
Well, taken care of is a strong word, but you do get discounts as airline staff, and they are lucrative.
The Oman is not paying for all your airline tickets, not for the family, you and your family. That's an assumption.
Paying for them? No, I pay, but it's cheap. Okay. So no, look, we do, and that is one of the things that one of the laws of the airline industry for a lot of people is that you have staff travel benefits, and it's not just on your own airline; you also get other airline benefits as well. So that is a perk for our staff, all of our staff, not me personally. It is me as well personally, but it's all of us. But I wouldn't put a value on that to say that I'm in this job because of that. No. Some people might, perhaps, at different levels of the company. For some people, particularly our crew, it might be to see opportunity to see the world as well, right? So there's those sorts of things. But honestly, I don't think I'm travelling for any different reasons I used to before. You know, I'm aware, and I've had colleagues in the past who every weekend they're on a plane going to another exotic place. I've never been that person. I'm not getting away any more than what I used to before. I'm too busy for it, by the way. I can't, even if I wanted to. But I guess what I do get an appreciation of is what it's you know, in putting it together from the airline side. What does it take? Because obviously as a customer being exposed to the airline industry, you take all of the stuff that happens on board the aircraft for granted. You expect restaurant quality food. You don't expect the different standard. You have you think it's just like a kitchen in the galley, and it's not. You know, you don't know what your body does to you up in the sky as well, because there's stuff going on inside your body which is different. Take an empty water bottle and just put it on in front of you and watch what happens to it on the descent for landing. It shrivels up. So there's a lot of about being in that environment as well. And you don't get that, and just actually the whole beautiful things around flight and engineering and aircraft, and it's amazing. And having had, I'll tell you what is a bit of a buzz is that I've been on board a cockpit, which is not an experience you can really have as a paying customer these days. And if I say that this is the little bit of an aviation geek in me, that stuff, the excitement of that never sort of really leaves. It is something really quite special. I had a fear of flying before I used to work for the airlines.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, don't ask me why, but I did. And the first airline job I had, I can remember being on an extremely rough flight, and I can remember being in the last row of economy class, and I was travelling a domestic flight in Australia, and I had my suit coat on my lap, and my suit coat went flying across a wide body aircraft and 4 rows forward. It was that bad.
Whoa!
And about when the captain spoke in the calmest of voices in the middle of all this black cloud and the aircraft flying around all over the place, and I was petrified. You know, he had the calmest voice, and I saw him in the staff cafeteria, which used to be a thing that don't exist anymore, but it used to be a thing back there in the airline I worked for. And I went up to him and I said, "How about that flight last week to Sydney?" Our office was in Melbourne, and he said, "What flight?" It made no impression on him. He was so cool. Anyway, but the way I got over, you talk about cockpit, the way I got over my fear of flying was the first time I was in a cockpit. And after that, I've never had a fear of flying ever since.
Wow, that's what you got to do to let the fear
I
out
don't
of
know.
yourself.
I mean, it's different for different people, right? Then there's courses you
So
can
you've done
do on
that
this
as
as
well.
well that help for people, you know, because there's commercial courses you can do to help, because people, there's a lot of people out there who are scared, don't realise it's safer up there than it is in your car.
Yeah, there you say.
There you
Well,
go.
I have a following question to that, but I'll save it for later. But right
Sure.
now, I want to ask you another thing. What are the major myths or the biggest myths about the aviation industry or airline industry that people usually have that you'd like to burst today?
Myths from a customer or a business point of view?
Let's talk both.
Um,
From a customer
your
point
planes
of
are
view.
full, so you're making a lot of money. So wrong. So wrong. So wrong. Yeah, I guess we touched on the food aspect.
Yeah.
Everybody travels for free if you work for an airline.
Well, trust me, that's what we believe. Like if
I
you're
know,
working
but
for
you
an
asked for the
airline, then
myths.
you're,
I'm telling you it's
if
a
you're in
myth.
the hospitality industry, okay, you're getting all the rooms for free. Or if you're getting like it, even if you're staying there,
Yeah.
you're getting it like for less than 50%. But I'm assuming that's pretty much for the airline as well.
But honestly, not always as well, because these days there's also embargoes in the peak seasons, even for airline staff. So, you know, we did a short break with my wife in June, and we bought full commercial airfares on Oman Air to fly.
Cool.
So it's okay. I mean, I'm just saying, you asked for myths, I'm telling you myths. Look, the myths around that people are scared, and there's if a fear of flying is unfounded, you wouldn't get in a car if you really had a genuine fear of flying. You know, statistically, you're much safer in an aircraft than you are in a motor vehicle. So that's another myth.
Yeah, that's good enough.
I think maybe one more, the glamour aspect for the crew, not for the management or not for the people in the office, but the crew. You lead a glamorous life. They spend a lot of hours on their feet. Their body lives in all sorts of different time zones. They're exposed to what, you know, being up in the air does to your body. It's an extremely tiring and grueling job for them, actually. And
Right.
I have the utmost respect for the physical demands of what they do.
Right. Right now, if you just had to say one thing to all your crew members, what would that be?
You've got a well-earned reputation for a high-quality airline. Let's not lose sight of that. The transformation is difficult, but we're making good strides together. And so far, we're almost half the way through, and we're succeeding. And it's because of what we all do collectively as a family unit, every single one of our 3,000 over staff, that we're getting it there, and we can get it there. And we'll take it to greater heights than it's ever been before.
Listening to that and coming that from a leader, it feels like, are there any job openings, by the way, in Oman Air?
Well, we want there to be a lot more, because, you know, I think our shareholder and the country deserves a national airline that can invest in growth and play its support as an enabler to the Vision 2040 economic program. And we look forward to doing that, and we don't take that as a right. We have to earn that right, and it's a responsibility. But with that responsibility, and if we get it right, comes great rewards, and we go back to growth, and we start taking more aircraft, we start flying more routes, we're hiring more people again. I mean, win-win-win, right? That's exciting, and that's really the end game we want. And it's in the best interests of everybody.
Yeah. With the amount of work that you've done already in the last 1 year, I really doubt if you have traveled anywhere in the last 1 year. Have you?
Anywhere? Oh no, that's a strong statement. I've travelled a
For
bit.
a vacation
but
for more than 2 weeks. Come on. I don't think so.
No.
See,
I'd be
there
lucky
you
to get a
do it.
week. Yeah,
Yeah.
But you know, that goes with the territory. I've been around these things before. Whether it's a startup or it's a transformation, the early phase is a heavy lift. As you start getting runs on the board, and you know, you're improving the competency in the organisation, and people are getting used to the change, and it starts becoming, routine's the wrong word, but it starts being a comfort factor, right? And they're comfortable around all of that and implementing. The time for that will come. But right now, this is a lot of fun. So I don't think about the travel so much. I think about, you know, what we've got to do here and the results in itself, and the joy that and the how can I say, the sense of achievement that brings.
Yeah. How much of Oman have you really explored?
Nowhere near enough. Nowhere near enough. I've still got to get up to the fjords in the north. I've been to Salalah, but not through Khareef, but I'm fixing that this coming weekend.
So have you booked the tickets already to Salalah, or yet to book the tickets?
I have booked the tickets for Salalah.
Well, that's the same bad because I still
Because
remember.
the flights are full.
Yeah. Last year, I remember when I booked just a day prior to my actual plan, I ended up paying 150 riyals in an Oman Air flight.
Oh, okay. Well,
By
thank
the-
you for that.
But it was totally worth it. It was totally because I was actually going and giving a surprise to one of my very good friends who was visiting Salalah at that time. And Oman Air was just the flight that we had to apply. Like, okay, this is the most comfortable one. This one's going to be like, so yeah. So I hope that you've booked the tickets. You should not be doing it, especially for Salalah at the last minute. Yeah.
Well, not in this season anyway. You know,
Yeah.
some of the rest of the year isn't so as bad, but at the moment, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it is the season. It's the
Yeah.
peak of the peak, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
And it's been a good season. I mean, since you want to touch on it, just really quickly, we put nearly 30% more seats into the market this year compared to last year, and they still fill. They fill. I think
Wow.
if we put another 10%, it might have filled as well. But, you know, we don't have enough. All the aircraft time that we would dedicate to it this year, we've done that. Even
Wow.
upgraded a lot of the flights to wide bodies. Which is not an ideal sector to put them on, to be honest with you, but just simply to get the seat capacity there.
Right. Wow, that's beautiful. And Salalah, of course, is beautiful. Who doesn't want to go? I mean, like, the temperatures are beautiful. And is it the first time that you're going to Salalah, or you've been there before?
I've been there, but not in the season. So I was there in February this year, but
Oh, okay.
it's not the same as Khareef. So I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to seeing the Khareef side of it.
Wow.
I'm really excited. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're going to love the
yeah,
coconut
yeah.
water. You're going to love the
Yeah.
mishkak. You're going to love a lot of more things there. So
Looking
I'm sure
forward.
that you're going to have a fab time right there.
I have no
Right.
doubt.
Okay. My another question I wanted to know. Talking about the headquarters, talking about the building in itself, are there any plans? And there is no better way of asking or twisting the question. I just have to ask, right? Just as it is. Any plans to change the building? Any renovation happening?
In all of my years, regardless of which job and which industry I've worked in, I've never had anyone ever ask about our headquarters, and you're not the first.
Okay.
So there's clearly something there. Look,
Yeah.
quite honestly, from the outside, it's an old classic building, and I don't mind that. But the interior is horrible, and you know, when you're trying to change the culture of an organisation, it's really not ideal for our staff. So everybody that walks in and says the whole rest of your ecosystem is in these palatial new buildings, and you know, why is the team here? We're completely conscious of it. We do have plans to do something about it quickly. There's longer term plans and aspirations we have about building a, I don't know, you want to call it an Oman Air hub where we can put all the crews sign on there. They dispatch them from there to the aircraft. All our training rooms can be there. Our integrated operations centre, which is at the airport, can be in there as well. And we create truly one home family environment, and you can have some F&B that's a central get-together point. And
Okay,
when you've
nice.
got a lot more people going through, and if we can get some of our ecosystem colleagues to co-locate with us as well, and basically build an aviation hub of sorts and create a whole, you know, community around it, would be nice. But at the very least, we've got to get our people into a place which far better facilitates the culture change we want to go through. And that means, you know, this is an old building, lots of small floors, lots of solid walls, and, you know, you could be 150 metres from somebody and not even see them, you know, in a month. It's just not the right environment. So open plan, airy, lots of glass, lots of very few offices, you know, just meeting rooms, and even they need to be glass, and really just open the whole place out. And you can really change the culture.
Right.
I've done this elsewhere where I've done transformation and builds. It really changes the whole way people feel at work. I think off camera the other before we were touching on a place I'd been before,
Yeah.
where we went from a similar building into a new purpose-built building in a Google-like office with colour and bean bags and different forms of meeting areas and
Right.
stand-up meeting areas and high tables and food areas and all sorts of things, pizza days and whatnot. And it transformed the culture literally from the day we moved in. People were doing 2 to 3 hours extra work a day in the office, and we weren't asking them to do that. They just enjoyed it so much and didn't want to go
Right.
home quickly.
Absolutely.
So we need to do that for our people. We do. We owe them that.
I am so glad to hear that. And I'm so glad that I even asked that question. And like, wow, I'll be really excited to hear news about that, by the way. Then.
I still can't get over that. It's really, it's amazing.
Yeah, more than the
but
sales,
it's been
more than anything
so many
else, I'll be
people have
really
asked.
looking forward to some
Yeah.
news right there that, okay,
Yeah.
there's work happening there as well.
Absolutely.
Restructuring, is it still going to continue or now
Yeah.
you're done with that phase?
No. Well, I mean, firstly, insofar as the transformation program we're on right now, we have what we call internal North Stars, and they're predominantly financial. I mean, we've obviously, safety is never compromised. We don't want to lose sight of we're a quality carrier, so we maintain that standard, if not build on it. But the financial transformation, we have a North Star of an EBIT break even and an operating cash flow break even. Hopefully your listeners understand those two terms, but basically a sorts of break even profitability and in cash flow terms being able to wash our face on our operations. And normally in a transformation like this, that would be a 5 to 7 year journey. We're trying to do it in 3. We're nearly 18 months through it. So we closed our 24 results. We know what our July year-to-date results are this year. And this we're at the halfway point. So basically we're aiming to get this done in 3 years and by the end of next year. So far we're meeting our numbers is the good news. So we're really pleased and incredibly proud of what the team is doing to get us to where we've got to so far. So yeah. To our people. Really,
Fantastic. That's good news.
And
That's
the
good
support
stuff.
we're getting from the ecosystem, because honestly, there's so much love and passion for the organisation in Oman. That's not lost on us as well. And I think every little bit of goodwill that helps is good.
Yeah.
Having said all of that, it's really not the end of the journey at the end of next year. And what do I mean by that? This industry is in constant change.
Right.
And, in aviation terms, transformation actually these days is just business as usual. So it really is the get used to always looking at how to do things better, because the other guys are constantly doing it. We need to get into that mode. But I guess what the milestone of end of next year is really the being able to put a tick in the box to say we've achieved the financial transformation that was asked of us. We've got to keep transforming, but there's a huge milestone there where hopefully the shareholder says, you guys have delivered what we wanted out of you, and you've now got a pillar and a foundation for being able to go back to investing again and growing again and so on.
Wow, inshallah to that.
Yeah,
wow, that's so good to hear.
Thank you.
Is there any incident, any experience, any anecdote that you'd like to share, which was one of those crazy travel stories for you, or incidents or something that came onto your table and then after 3 days you had a good laugh on that? Any fun
stories. Why do I have to think? Because this is aviation and crazy things happen every day.
Like every day we keep hearing these crazy travel stories, and this happened on the aircraft or that happened. Have you ever come across?
Look, I have, but I like to think that a lot of the crazier ones were not on our airline, because we've crazy sometimes can also translate to scary, and this industry is full of those. But I actually, we're lucky. I mean,
I've been some came to your head, but you chose not to mention.
But hang on, perhaps not here. But if you want a crazy travel story, and I won't mention the part of the world because I don't think it would be appropriate.
Go for it.
But I've been in a place where I've been chased through an airport terminal with a gun.
What?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
No, just basically some really irate people, and in this particular place they would do crazy things.
Yeah, that's quite crazy.
I've also been once where there was a bunch. I've seen a bunch of not our airline related, but I just happened to be in the terminal. Really irate customers, and the police was firing bullets into the roof to just get order in the place. Just some really funny stuff like that, which can happen. And
you continue to be in the same industry.
Funny things in people's luggage. I mean, there's lots of funny stories in aviation, to be honest with you. I thank God here it seems to be a bit more orthodox. We have generally really nice customers who are, by far and large, behaved and understanding when we get things wrong, because we do. This is the nature of aviation industry. Things go wrong, sometimes in your control, sometimes not in your control, but you still have to own the problem because they're our customers, right? So, generally it comes back to what I said about Oman. Years ago when I came to the region, people said to me the nicest people in the region are in Oman. I've got I'm trying to be diplomatic here, and I am in Oman, but I mean, these things go around. They really are genuinely nice here. They really are. It's truth. No one led me astray, right? And so we're lucky we have that as a bit of a backdrop. But we also carry people from all over the world, actually. And generally, our customers behave. I don't know what it is. Maybe that Zen of Oman translates into the cabin. I don't know. I don't know.
Of course, yes. Well, interesting. I've got a quick rapid fire now. Actually, honestly, I have a lot more questions, but I'll give you a break now.
No problem.
And I have a quick rapid fire in 2 parts.
Okay.
The first part is going to be about you. The second part is going to be quick hacks for myself, which
Okay.
I want to know from you. Okay?
Okay.
So the first one,
One sentence answers, or do you want more than that?
one word answers.
One word answers.
And they've got to be quick. I'll
Yeah,
give you a
okay.
countdown right here, like 3, 2, 1, and you got to give me the answer.
Oh, pressure.
Okay. Here we start. The first one.
Go.
A window seat or an aisle? What do you pick?
Aisle.
Okay. That's quite unheard of. I want to know more. Why? Why would you do that?
Convenience. I travel so much that I want to get on and off an aircraft quickly.
Ah, okay.
And I hate climbing over people if I'm in economy class to go to the bathroom. Or wanting to get something out of my overhead bucket locker.
Okay, got it. So an aisle for you. I'll give it to you there. Okay. One airline snack you secretly love.
Chips.
Yay, Oman chips.
Or Oman chips on us. And if you said other airlines, ice cream.
That tastes the same. At least something tastes the same, right?
Right.
I get it right there. Okay.
Right.
What's the strangest passenger request that you've ever heard?
Strangest passenger request that I've ever heard.
Not just for this airline.
No, I know, but
Any airline.
I'm thinking you have all the standard stuff for all the excuses they will have for baggage and this and that and what they've lost and they haven't lost and the stories that they conjure up. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody on board one, I don't know why I'm even thinking of this example, on a first class flight wanted a pie. A first class customer, and I think they'd been served caviar and lobster and said, I want a pie. And I expect a pie. I don't know why that was one that came to mind, but anyway.
First class, I want a pie. That's good.
I want a pie.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And that came to your mind.
I
Wow.
want a pie,
If
yeah.
Oman Air had a signature dish, what would it be? Not a
Oman is-
pie.
Well, it'd have to be one of the Shua, I guess, maybe.
Hey. Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it'd be one of the Omani dishes. I was just thinking which one I was going to say, but Shua was
Okay,
the one
Shua
that came
it
to
is.
mind, and also it's one of the ones I definitely like.
Yeah. Okay. Have you ever missed a flight yourself?
Yes, once.
Whoa. Share the experience.
I slept in, and I never did it again. Yeah. And it's a
last
funnier
time.
story that I just missed the flight. I think I had been on a 13-day road trip in about 7 countries.
Whoa,
I was
that
completely
sounds
exhausted. I was sleeping at home in Melbourne, and I had to wake up for an early morning flight to Sydney to catch a connection to Hong Kong.
Okay.
And I set my alarm clock, but I was so exhausted I slept through it. And I got up and I was in a panic. And
Yeah.
I rang my office and they said, we can get you to a flight through Adelaide. And I said, great, I'm out the door in 10 minutes. I'm
Yeah.
going to the airport. And I literally bolted. And I got the plane, I got to Adelaide. And when I landed in Adelaide, I worked out that Adelaide, I then had a connecting flight to Sydney, which was going to be my original flight from Sydney to Hong Kong. After all that. And I went into meltdown for about 3 hours. And I've never missed a flight since then.
Oh, the fear is there now.
And that was a long time ago, huh? That was maybe more than 15 years ago that happened.
Fair enough. So now you're one of those who reaches the airport like
No,
4 hours?
last minute.
Oh,
Last
you
minute.
still reach the airport last minute.
The audience in the background that you can't see laugh because they know how I am.
Like last minute, like seriously, that's what you do.
Yeah. But I don't miss them. So somehow I work out my formula as to how quickly I reverse engineer to get there. I don't, unless I have something I have to do specifically at the airport, I don't like hanging around airports. So I fly enough that I don't need to be around them. So
Point to point, cut to cut.
Yeah,
Okay, fair
basically.
enough.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One destination you would love Oman Air to fly to. Just for yourself.
Sydney or Athens.
That was really
Or Athens.
Yeah, that's very, very honest right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Turbulence for you is scary or just like, it's okay.
Helps me sleep better.
Really? That's quite the opposite, by the way.
It's like, how can I say, rocking the baby to bed.
That's what turbulence for you is. Okay. If
I mean,
you-
again, it comes down to things. I can tell you about some of the whole discussion about aircraft. The structural stress an aircraft can take is mind-blowing. I mean, literally, so for example, people are scared. I hear some people have said to me, well, the wings might snap off, right? Do you know what it takes for an aircraft wing to snap off? It's nearly got to go to 90 degrees.
What?
Yeah. That's the amount of flex it has.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's the first.
These are things in design phases that are tested for, by the way.
Whoa.
They're very structurally sound. So once you get that comfort with, don't worry, strap in, because it can, and you can see when there's been severe turbulence and you see news reports somebody and you'll see photographs of things that are strewn around, or somebody went flying out of their seat and hurt their head or hurt a shoulder or an arm or whatever. So the idea is to do what the crew tell you to do. They tell you, keep this, and I do. I keep my seatbelt, whether I'm sleeping, I'm awake, sitting upright or lying down. My seatbelt, when I'm not needing to move, is on.
Yeah.
And I sleep comfortable.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good one. Good tip right there. Okay, a movie you'd happily watch on repeat on a long haul flight.
Oh God! So I'm on a flight. It's one of the few opportunities I get where I can try and get out of a zone and just and to me relaxation means get out of the real world, right? A little bit. So I like comedies.
Okay.
And I like action movies. So
Kevin Hart movies.
Kevin Hart's, I can watch a lot of his. In fact, one of the flight I was on recently, there was this. They had on a TV element of it at one of his stand-up shows.
Okay. So you like the comedy genre?
So I like the comedy. Some of the action movies as well. I mean,
Interesting.
A Fast and the Furious movie I can always watch again.
Right.
Some old Adam Sandler movies I can always watch again. In terms of the current generation comedians, people like Kevin Hart I can watch. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. All right. So those were my 10 questions, which were about you.
Okay.
Now it's going to be about the hacks.
Okay.
Cheapest day of the week to book flights. What is it according to you?
In some countries, it's Tuesdays and Wednesdays. In some countries, it's Fridays. And we don't really do a day of the week here. But it might come in the future.
Ooh. Point noted. Okay. Best time of the day to book? Midnight or midday?
Fares don't really change through the day to say if you get on, because I've heard some people told me we've worked out a hack for Oman Air. I said, tell me, he said, you go on at 7 o'clock in the morning and it's cheaper. And
where did that come from?
So I thought,
really
has somebody hacked our system? I went and actually tried it, and it was not true.
No, it's not.
It was not true. It was not
so
true.
Basically, there isn't any particular good time. It's like,
I mean, there isn't. There are peaks where people generally go online and book, and it tends to be when they're home in the evening. So that's a busier time. But these days. It used to be an issue when you had latency issues and the internet wasn't so fast, but not with the internet speeds these days.
Now you can just kind of book anytime. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Direct through airline website or via agent? What's smarter?
What's smarter?
Yeah.
The airline. Because one of the issues we have, and we tell people repeatedly, so I'm happy to this go out publicly broadcasted, agents sometimes don't brief the customers properly on what they're getting with their airfare, and also sometimes because they're doing it too quickly or whatever, don't put enough customer contact details in there. So if there's any ever disruption and we're trying to communicate to people, often the people we cannot reach are people who have booked through travel agents because the travel agent has not put all their contact details in there for us to find them. If they've booked directly through us, we will always be able to get a hold of them.
So it's always good.
Yeah.
To book directly
and
through
from
the
the customer's perspective, I feel with them because sometimes I say it's the airline's fault. So my friend, we didn't have your contact details. We couldn't. We wanted to and we couldn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So the safest bet is if you go direct, it takes that risk off the table.
Makes sense. Okay. How far in advance should we really book the tickets for the best price? I've asked you that during the conversation.
It depends on the time of the year. If you're talking about a peak period, early. If you're talking about a non-peak period, it matters less, but still early. If you're booking inside the last 14 days.
How early? A month?
I think in off-peak, a month. I think in peak, even longer.
2 months?
2 to 3. Yeah.
Ooh.
2 to 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do last-minute tickets ever get cheaper, or is that a myth? That's a following question to the previous one.
So honestly, I could probably think of some jurisdictions in the world and maybe in some less developed countries where that might happen. But there's a thing in airline terms we call revenue management, which is something that even the hotel industry learned from the aviation industry. And it basically works on price elasticity of customers, if I can use that. This is the economist in me coming out now. So basically, people who are coming very last minute are far more price elastic, meaning they will take a price because they're coming last minute because the need is more there. If they've been able to plan long ahead, they won't pay any price for it. So they'd be prepared to pay a higher price at the end. So generally prices only go up towards the day of departure.
So,
right? So
earlier the better.
Yeah, you don't. Really bad airlines in unsophisticated environments sometimes sit there 2 days before and say, aircraft is empty, dump the price. These are the sort of airlines that go bankrupt. And they aren't the airlines around this region, because the airlines around here run themselves as businesses pretty much.
Oh, interesting. Okay. What's the most effective way to use air miles?
It depends. If you're someone who flies so much, you've got so many air miles and you don't know what to do with them the whole time, you might use them to buy products, you might use them for an experience.
What would you use your air
different.
miles for?
I'm not in that category because I don't earn air miles when I'm flying on the air. Well, I mean, I'm travelling on work on my own airline. I don't get miles as well.
Like, come on, what are you asking?
So the only air miles I get actually come through the other ways I earn miles. Right, so when I spend on my credit cards and whatever, and I bank them into an air mile program, not so much from my flying.
Got it.
But I mean, in the days where, and it's been a long time for me, but in the days where I was having to earn my own miles, I wasn't in the category of having so many miles I didn't know what to do with them. Therefore, I wanted to use them smart, so I would save them for longer haul trips, and I would typically use them for upgrades rather than buying a full ticket.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. How do you actually increase your chances for a free upgrade?
Free upgrade? They are, I forgot a myth. You asked me about myths earlier.
See, I tried to slide in the question as quickly as I could. It's a very normal one.
We don't call them, when you mean free upgrades, you mean that you just turn up and they say, guess what, we've put you in first class? Is that what you mean? Because that question gets asked because it occasionally does happen. Not first class, but occasionally it does happen. And it might happen, for example, where there might have been a bit of the front is emptier. Perhaps economy class is a little bit oversold. An extra person or two turned up. So generally the airline will profile and say, okay, who's in an economy class who might be a top tier member, upgrade them.
How do they decide that, by the way?
But if you rely on that, these days it happens
very rarely.
Very infrequently. So it's not impossible, but it's not going to be, 1 in 3 flights or 1 in 2 flights you're going to get that upgrade. How do we do that? We'd search through names. We would know if there's someone in economy class who's a top tier frequent flyer member, we will know from our database and we'll prioritise obviously them if we were going to upgrade anybody.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, true or false? Booking 2 one-way tickets is cheaper than a return.
2 one-way tickets is cheaper than a return.
True or false?
Okay, depends. So let me tell you what I mean. Okay, the legacy airlines or the full service airlines typically a return ticket is cheaper than than 2 one-way tickets. It's the other way around to what you said. The low-cost model is one-way fares. So if you did a return, it's just the sum of what the 2 one-way fares would have been. So it actually is nor cheaper nor more expensive. Okay, but with the full-service airlines, the majority of them would be cheaper on a return ticket than 2 one-way tickets. At best, some of them have moved also to sector pricing. Which would just be the sum of the 2 parts anyway. So there's no scenario where 2 one-ways is cheaper than a return. Okay, it's either the other way around or the same number.
Okay, so it's better to always book a return ticket then. That's okay.
Unless you're going and you don't know when the return is and you have no option.
That's
then fine.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, what's one insider hack for saving money on flights most passengers don't know?
Most passengers don't know. Well, we've covered the booking early bit, but most people should know that, so that shouldn't know. Look,
anything about the luggage?
Know what you need. So here's the thing. Okay, but they would know this to some extent, but maybe not enough. Sometimes people buy bundles or just pay a fare that includes a bunch of stuff when these days there's increasing options to de-bundle your airfare. So I would say be careful. If you don't need all the trimmings, see if there's any opportunity to unbundle any of your airfare and that might bring it down. Right? But conversely also the other way around, to save money rather than a cheaper airfare, if you know you're going to turn up with 60 kilos, don't go to the airport with that. You're going to pay a bomb.
Of course.
Okay? So buy it in advance. It's at least 30% cheaper.
Of course. Yeah. So that. By the way, talking about the luggage.
You'd be surprised how many people do that.
No way. Really?
Yes.
They don't book prior?
No.
They do it on the airport?
They turn up at the airport and they say, one, they'll hope it'll be waived, and these days nobody really waives anymore, and 2, when they hear the price, they're really upset.
Yeah, had they booked prior, it would be having half the price.
And if you went through us, most airlines now actually, not just us, but including us, in your booking flow, we will ask you the question before you finally check out: do you need any excess baggage?
Right.
Buy it now; it's cheaper.
Yeah, yeah. But when you talk about Oman Air, I think the baggage bundles are very different from the other airlines, is what I feel. I might be wrong.
In what way?
In terms of like, there's a 30 kg thing, which comes with your air ticket, plus 5 or straight away 20. There isn't something like a 10 kg, or is there?
Yeah. I think that's based on what we see our customers are carrying, right? And as a full service airline and the type of customer we have, we generally find the luggage limits that we've got are more appropriate for them. Okay, if you were, for example, I'm just trying to think of an example the other way. If you were flying a low-cost airline within Europe, okay, and people are doing short trips, a day or two, then they may only just want to carry something on or put something very light in the luggage hold, so they look for that other option. We don't find our people are really looking for that.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow, that was quite an interesting conversation. Thank you so much. Before I let you go, though, one last question.
Sure.
If you had to share the top 3 things that you're currently working on, which we should be excited about. Of course, I have learned in the conversation, during the conversation about the Sindbad program, about any new destinations that you'll be announcing anytime soon that we should be excited for.
We are always looking at new destinations. The reason we don't sit out there, so we're looking at this, then someone immediately says, well, where is this? You said you're looking at this and you haven't done it.
Yeah.
And it's pointless going that way because things move, right? So we have a 5-year plan, for example. A 5-year plan has lots of new routes in it, but we don't talk about them because we only firm up the business cases for them as we get closer. And what we might find is the market's moved, and what we think is probably looking really viable today, 6 months from now when we run the numbers again, something has changed, whatever it might be, right? It's a soft economy on the other side, people aren't travelling as much, the demand has gone off, or it was a destination that was a hot destination and it's not a hot destination anymore, these sorts of things. So we always make the announcements when we're close in and we're actually making the solid decisions to stop people running rumours about and that most airlines actually do it that way.
Yeah.
The nature of this industry, to put capacity out there takes long-term planning. To set up a new route takes time to plan, put all the things in place, fares, marketing programs, ground handling arrangements, maintenance arrangements on the other side, all this sort of stuff, hotels for the crew if they're overnighting, all of this. It takes work. So we don't knee jerk and decide we're flying somewhere and it starts tomorrow, right? So we are working with lead time on all of this stuff. So all of us have to think ahead. Also with aircraft deliveries. We've got, for example, more wide-body aircraft coming from, we've got one more this year, but then we've got more coming from late 27. We need to start thinking about what are we going to do with these aircraft when they start coming. You think early. If you need more capacity these days, if you want narrow-body aircraft and you want to go to the manufacturer in order, they're taking orders for 2031. Yes.
Whoa.
That's how far out they're sold. So what I'm saying is we need to be thinking ahead because of the lead time to get things in place. So we're always thinking far ahead, but we don't announce till we've actually got solid stuff to announce. So that's
makes sense.
Other things we're working on, improving our product. Just because I said it's really good doesn't mean we don't think that needs investment. We're now actually working on looking what does our next generation product include, look like, including maybe flat business class beds on the narrow body aircraft, for example.
Whoa.
Yeah, cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
So, yeah, it is. So the nature of this industry, again, because if we want to do that, the lead time to get delivery of these things and get them fitted onto an aircraft, it takes time.
Yeah.
So we need to be always thinking years out, even though we've got our short-term objectives right now. So we're not losing sight of what we've got to deliver between now and the end of 26. But if we don't think about those other things now, we can't wake up and start thinking about them then, because then there might be another 2-3 years later that we can actually achieve them. So there's a lot of stuff that's always going on in the background.
Yeah.
Stuff coming this year that's exciting to talk about is we're going back to our double daily flights to London, which we used to have and we took away pre-COVID. So we're really excited about that because London is one of our best performing routes, very high load factors. We have a lot of our customers saying, please put on more flights. The other beautiful thing about the second daily flight to London is it lands in time to connect with all the flights that go across the Atlantic to North America and South America. So whereas now our current flight gets into the evening and it misses all the connections, so all of a sudden we're going to be able to open up selling opportunities into the US, Canada, places in South America, especially with our One World partners as well now. We've got the largest operators across the Atlantic, British Airways and American Airlines. Guess what? They're both One World airlines, right? So that's exciting. And then the winter season in Europe, of course, we have a bunch of routes that we operate seasonally for traffic that comes to Oman and through Oman to some of the southeast destinations. So Zurich and Malé will be back in for the winter schedule as well this year.
Nice, very interesting. And another question, a following question to that: which is the favorite destination for Oman Air? Which is that destination that
for the airline or our customers, and which
for
customers?
For the airline that makes the maximum
revenue.
You
mean maximum revenue.
London?
I mean, London is one of the best performing routes for any airline that touches London Heathrow. Right. Tends to do quite well. It's a high yield market. It's an affluent traveller that generally goes there, just given the nature of what it is. So it's a very strong performing route. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for
My
all
pleasure.
your time.
A lot of fun.
It was so
Nice to
much
meet
fun.
you.
Yeah, it was just very enlightening about the whole industry and about the cost, about the revenue. I had never seen the industry the same way. Like now, how I'll be looking at it in the coming days.
And now you're ready to be an airline CEO.
Inshallah to that. I am just going to cut and just say bye. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.